The Doctrine of the Mean by Zisi, translated by James Lang. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Zhu Xi's commentary. My master, the philosopher Cheng, says, being without inclination to either side is called Zhong. Admitting of no change is called Yong. By Zhong is denoted the correct course to be pursued by all under heaven. By Yong is denoted the fixed principle regulating all under heaven. This work contains the law of the mind, which was handed down from one to another in the Confucian school, till Zisi, fearing lest in the course of time errors should arise about it, committed it to writing, and delivered it to Mencius. The book first speaks of one principle. It next spreads this out and embraces all things. Finally, it returns and gathers them all up under the one principle. Unroll it, and it fills the universe. Roll it up, and it retires and lies hid in mysteriousness. The relish of it is inexhaustible. The whole of it is solid learning. When the skillful reader has explored it with delight till he has apprehended it, he may carry it into practice all his life, and will find that it cannot be exhausted. End of commentary. Chapter 1. What heaven has conferred is called the nature. An accordance with this nature is called the path of duty. The regulation of this path is called instruction. The path may not be left for an instant. If it could be left, it would not be the path. On this account, the superior man does not wait till he sees things to be cautious, nor till he hears things to be apprehensive. There is nothing more visible than what is secret, and nothing more manifest than what is minute. Therefore, the superior man is watchful over himself when he is alone. While there are no stirrings of pleasure, anger, sorrow, or joy, the mind may be said to be in the state of equilibrium. When those feelings have been stirred, and they act in their due degree, there ensues what may be called the state of harmony. This equilibrium is the great root from which grow all the human actings in the world, and this harmony is the universal path which they all should pursue. Let the states of equilibrium and harmony exist in perfection, and a happy order will prevail throughout heaven and earth, and all things will be nourished and flourish. James Lagg's note. In the first chapter, which is given above, Zisi states the views which had been handed down to him as the basis of his discourse. First, it shows clearly how the path of duty is to be traced to its origin in heaven, and is unchangeable, while the substance of it is provided in ourselves and may not be departed from. Next, it speaks of the importance of preserving and nourishing this, and of exercising a watchful self-scrutiny with reference to it. Finally, it speaks of the meritorious achievements and transforming influence of sage and spiritual men in their highest extent. The wish of Zisi was that hereby the learner should direct his thoughts inwards, and by searching in himself there find these truths, so that he might put aside all outward temptations, appealing to his selfishness, and fill up the measure of the goodness which is natural to him. This chapter is what the writer Yong called it the sum of the whole work. In the 10 chapters which follow, Zisi quotes the words of the master to complete the meaning of this. Chapter 2. Cheng Yi said, "The superior man embodies the course of the mean. The mean man acts contrary to the course of the mean." The superior man's embodying the course of the mean is because he is a superior man, and so always maintains the mean. The mean man's acting contrary to the course of the mean is because he is a mean man and has no caution. Chapter 3. The master said, "Perfect is the virtue which is according to the mean. Rare have they long been among the people who could practice it." Chapter 4. The master said, "I know how it is that the path of the mean is not walked in. The knowing go beyond it, and the stupid do not come up to it. I know how it is that the path of the mean is not understood. The men of talents and virtue go beyond it, and the worthless do not come up to it. There is no body but eats and drinks, but they are few who can distinguish flavors." Chapter 5. The master said, "Alas, how is the path of the mean untrodden?" Chapter 6. The master said, "There was Shun. He indeed was greatly wise. Shun loved to question others and to study their words, though they might be shallow. He concealed what was bad in them, and displayed what was good. He took hold of their 2 extremes, determined the mean, and employed it in his government of the people. It was by this that he was Shun." Chapter 7. The master said, "Men all say, 'We are wise.' But being driven forward and taken in a net, a trap, or a pitfall, they know not how to escape. Men all say, 'We are wise,' but happening to choose the course of the mean, they are not able to keep it for a round month." Chapter 8. The master said, "This was the manner of Hui. He made choice of the mean, and whenever he got hold of what was good, he clasped it firmly, as if wearing it on his breast, and did not lose it." Chapter 9. The master said, "The empire, its states, and its families may be perfectly ruled. Dignities and emoluments may be declined. Naked weapons may be trampled under the feet, but the course of the mean cannot be attained to." Chapter 10. Zi Lu asked about energy. The master said, "Do you mean the energy of the south, the energy of the north, or the energy which you should cultivate yourself?" To show forbearance and gentleness in teaching others, and not to revenge unreasonable conduct, this is the energy of southern regions, and the good man makes it his study. To lie under arms and meet death without regret, this is the energy of northern regions, and the forceful make it their study. Therefore, the superior man cultivates a friendly harmony without being weak. How firm is he in his energy? He stands erect in the middle, without inclining to either side. How firm is he in his energy? When good principles prevail in the government of his country, he does not change from what he was in retirement. How firm is he in his energy? When bad principles prevail in the country, he maintains his course to death without changing. How firm is he in his energy? Chapter 11. The Master said, "To live in obscurity, and yet practice wonders, in order to be mentioned with honor in future ages, this is what I do not do." The good man tries to proceed according to the right path, but when he has gone halfway, he abandons it. I am not able so to stop. The superior man accords with the course of the mean. Though he may be all unknown, unregarded by the world, he feels no regret. It is only the sage who is able for this. Chapter 12. The way which the superior man pursues reaches wide and far, and yet is secret. Common men and women, however ignorant, may intermeddle with the knowledge of it, yet in its utmost reaches there is that which even the sage does not know. Common men and women, however much below the ordinary standard of character, can carry it into practice, yet in its utmost reaches there is that which even the sage is not able to carry into practice. Great as heaven and earth are, men still find some things in them with which to be dissatisfied. Thus it is, that were the superior man to speak of his way in all its greatness, nothing in the world would be found able to embrace it, and were he to speak of it in its minuteness, nothing in the world would be found able to split it. It is said in the book of poetry, "The hawk flies up to heaven, the fishes leap in the deep." This expresses how this way is seen above and below. The way of the superior man may be found in its simple elements, in the intercourse of common men and women, but in its utmost reaches it shines brightly through heaven and earth. James Legg's note. The 12th chapter above contains the words of Zisi, and is designed to illustrate what is said in the 1st chapter, that the path may not be left. In the 8 chapters which follow, he quotes in a miscellaneous way the words of Confucius to illustrate it. End of note. Chapter 13. The master said, "The path is not far from man." When men try to pursue a course which is far from the common indications of consciousness, this course cannot be considered the path. In the Book of Poetry it is said, "In hewing an axe handle, in hewing an axe handle, the pattern is not far off." We grasp one axe handle to hew the other, and yet, if we look askance from the one to the other, we may consider them as apart. Therefore, the superior man governs men according to their nature, with what is proper to them, and as soon as they change what is wrong, he stops. When one cultivates to the utmost the principles of his nature, and exercises them on the principle of reciprocity, he is not far from the path. What you do not like when done to yourself, do not do to others. In the way of the superior man, there are 4 things, to not one of which have I as yet attained. To serve my father as I would require my son to serve me. To this I have not attained. To serve my prince as I would require my minister to serve me. To this I have not attained. To serve my elder brother as I would require my younger brother to serve me. To this I have not attained. To set the example in behaving to a friend as I would require him to behave to me. To this I have not attained. Earnest in practicing the ordinary virtues, and careful in speaking about them, if in his practice he has anything defective, the superior man dares not but exert himself; and if in his words he has any excess, he dares not allow himself such license. Thus his words have respect to his actions, and his actions have respect to his words. Is it not just an entire sincerity which marks the superior man? Chapter 14. The superior man does what is proper to the station in which he is. He does not desire to go beyond this. In a position of wealth and honor, he does what is proper to a position of wealth and honor. In a poor and low position, he does what is proper to a poor and low position. Situated among barbarous tribes, he does what is proper to a situation among barbarous tribes. In a position of sorrow and difficulty, he does what is proper to a position of sorrow and difficulty. The superior man can find himself in no situation in which he is not himself. In a high situation, he does not treat with contempt his inferiors. In a low situation, he does not court the favor of his superiors. He rectifies himself and seeks for nothing from others, so that he has no dissatisfactions. He does not murmur against heaven, nor grumble against men. Thus it is that the superior man is quiet and calm, waiting for the appointments of heaven, while the mean man walks in dangerous paths, looking for lucky occurrences. The master said, "In archery, we have something like the way of the superior man. when the archer misses the center of the target, he turns round and seeks for the cause of his failure in himself. Chapter 15. The way of the superior man may be compared to what takes place in traveling. When to go to a distance, we must first traverse the space that is near, and in ascending a height, when we must begin from the lower ground. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "Happy union with wife and children is like the music of lutes and harps. When there is concord among brethren, the harmony is delightful and enduring. Thus may you regulate your family and enjoy the pleasure of your wife and children." The Master said, in such a state of things, parents have entire complacence. Chapter 16. The Master said, "How abundantly do spiritual beings display the powers that belong to them! We look for them, but do not see them. We listen to, but do not hear them. Yet they enter into all things, and there is nothing without them. They cause all the people in the empire to fast and purify themselves, and array themselves in their richest dresses, in order to attend at their sacrifices. Then, like overflowing water, they seem to be over the heads and on the right and left of their worshippers." It is said in the Book of Poetry, "The approaches of the spirits you cannot surmise, and can you treat them with indifference?" Such is the manifestness of what is minute. Such is the impossibility of repressing the outgoings of sincerity. Chapter 17. The Master said, "How greatly filial was Shun! His virtue was that of a sage. His dignity was the imperial throne. His riches were all within the 4 seas. He offered his sacrifices in his ancestral temple, and his descendants preserved the sacrifices to himself. Therefore, having such great virtue, it could not but be that he should obtain the throne, that he should obtain those riches, that he should obtain his fame, that he should attain to his long life. Thus it is that heaven, in the production of things, is surely bountiful to them, according to their qualities. Hence the tree that is flourishing, it nourishes, while that which is ready to fall, it overthrows." In the Book of Poetry, it is said, "The admirable, amiable prince displayed conspicuously his excelling virtue, adjusting his people and adjusting his officers. Therefore he received from heaven the emoluments of dignity. It protected him, assisted him, decreed him the throne, sending from heaven these favors, as it were, repeatedly. We may say, therefore, that he who is greatly virtuous will be sure to receive the appointment of heaven." Chapter 18. The Master said, "It is only King Wan, of whom it can be said that he had no cause for grief. His father was King Ji, and his son was King Wu. His father laid the foundations of his dignity, and his son transmitted it. King Wu continued the enterprise of King Tai, King Ji, and King Wan. He once buckled on his armor and got possession of the empire. He did not lose the distinguished personal reputation which he had throughout the empire. His dignity was the imperial throne. His riches were the possession of all within the 4 seas. He offered his sacrifices in his ancestral temple, and his descendants maintained the sacrifices to himself. It was in his old age that King Wu received the appointment to the throne, and the Duke of Zhou completed the virtuous course of Wan and Wu. He carried up the title of king to Tai and Ji, and sacrificed to all the former dukes above them with the imperial ceremonies. And this rule he extended to the princes of the empire, the great officers, the scholars, and the common people. Was the father a great officer and the son a scholar? Then the burial was that due to a great officer, and the sacrifice that due to a scholar. Was the father a scholar and the son a great officer? Then the burial was that due to a scholar, and the sacrifice that due to a great officer. The 1 year's mourning was made to extend only to the great officers, but the 3 years' mourning extended to the emperor. In the mourning for a father or mother, he allowed no difference between the noble and the mean. Chapter 19. The Master said, "How far extending was the filial piety of King Wu and the Duke of Zhou! Now, filial piety is seen in the skillful carrying out of the wishes of our forefathers, and the skillful carrying forward of their undertakings. In spring and autumn, they repaired and beautified the temple halls of their fathers, set forth their ancestral vessels, displayed their various robes, and presented the offerings of the several seasons. By means of the ceremonies of the ancestral temple, they distinguished the imperial kindred according to their order of descent. By ordering the parties present according to their rank, they distinguished the more noble and the less. By the arrangement of the services, they made a distinction of talents and worth. In the ceremony of general pledging, the inferiors presented the cup to their superiors, and thus something was given the lowest to do. At the concluding feast, places were given according to the hair, and thus was made the distinction of years. They occupied the places of their forefathers, practiced their ceremonies, and performed their music. They reverenced those whom they honored, and loved those whom they regarded with affection. Thus they served the dead as they would have served them alive. They served the departed as they would have served them had they been continued among them. By the ceremonies of the sacrifices to heaven and earth, they served God, and by the ceremonies of the ancestral temple, they sacrificed to their ancestors. He who understands the ceremonies of the sacrifices to heaven and earth, and the meaning of the several sacrifices to ancestors, would find the government of a kingdom as easy as to look into his palm. Chapter 20. The Duke I asked about government. The master said, the government of Wan and Wu is displayed in the records, the tablets of wood and bamboo. Let there be the men, and the government will flourish. But without the men, their government decays and ceases. With the right men, the growth of government is rapid, just as vegetation is rapid in the earth. And moreover, their government might be called an easily growing rush. Therefore, the administration of government lies in getting proper men. Such men are to be got by means of the ruler's own character. That character is to be cultivated by his treading in the ways of duty, and the treading those ways of duty is to be cultivated by the cherishing of benevolence. Benevolence is the characteristic element of humanity, and the great exercise of it is in loving relatives. Righteousness is the accordance of actions with what is right, and the great exercise of it is in honoring the worthy. The decreasing measures of the love due to relatives, and the steps in the honor due to the worthy, are produced by the principle of propriety. When those in inferior situations do not possess the confidence of their superiors, they cannot retain the government of the people. Hence, the sovereign may not neglect the cultivation of his own character. Wishing to cultivate his character, he may not neglect to serve his parents. In order to serve his parents, he may not neglect to acquire a knowledge of men. In order to know men, he may not dispense with a knowledge of heaven. The duties of universal obligation are 5, and the virtues wherewith they are practiced are 3. The duties are those between sovereign and minister, between father and son, between husband and wife, between elder brother and younger, and those belonging to the intercourse of friends. Those 5 are the duties of universal obligation. Knowledge, magnanimity, and energy. These 3 are the virtues universally binding, and the means by which they carry the duties into practice is singleness. Some are born with the knowledge of those duties, some know them by study, and some acquire the knowledge after a painful feeling of their ignorance. But the knowledge being possessed, it comes to the same thing. Some practice them with a natural ease, some from a desire for their advantages, and some by strenuous effort. But the achievement being made, it comes to the same thing. The master said, to be fond of learning is to be near to knowledge. To practice with vigor is to be near to magnanimity. To possess the feeling of shame is to be near to energy. He who knows these 3 things knows how to cultivate his own character. Knowing how to cultivate his own character, he knows how to govern other men. Knowing how to govern other men, he knows how to govern the empire with all its states and families. All who have the government of the empire with its states and families, have 9 standard rules to follow. Videre licet, the cultivation of their own characters, the honoring of men of virtue and talents, affection towards their relatives, respect towards the great ministers, kind and considerate treatment of the whole body of officers, dealing with the mass of the people as children, encouraging the resort of all classes of artisans, indulgent treatment of men from a distance, and the kindly cherishing of the princes of the states. By the ruler's cultivation of his own character, the duties of universal obligation are set forth. By honoring men of virtue and talents, he is preserved from errors of judgment. By showing affection to his relatives, there is no grumbling nor resentment among his uncles and brethren. By respecting the great ministers, he is kept from errors in the practice of government. By kind and considerate treatment of the whole body of officers, they are led to make the most grateful return for his courtesies. By dealing with the mass of the people as his children, they are led to exhort one another to what is good. By encouraging the resort of all classes of artisans, his resources for expenditure are rendered ample. By indulgent treatment of men from a distance, they are brought to resort to him from all quarters. And by kindly cherishing the princes of the states, the whole empire is brought to revere him. Self-adjustment and purification with careful regulation of his dress, and the not making a movement contrary to the rules of propriety. This is the way for the ruler to cultivate his person. Discarding slanderers, and keeping himself from the seductions of beauty. Making light of riches and giving honor to virtue. This is the way for him to encourage men of worth and talents. Giving them places of honor and large emolument, and sharing with them in their likes and dislikes. This is the way for him to encourage his relatives to love him. Giving them numerous officers to discharge their orders and commissions. This is the way for him to encourage the great ministers. According to them a generous confidence, and making their emoluments large. This is the way to encourage the body of officers. Employing them only at the proper times, and making the imposts light. This is the way to encourage the people. By daily examinations and monthly trials, and by making their rations in accordance with their labors. This is the way to encourage the classes of artisans. To escort them on their departure, and meet them on their coming, to commend the good among them, and show compassion to the incompetent. This is the way to treat indulgently men from a distance. To restore families whose line of succession has been broken, and to revive states that have been extinguished. To reduce to order states that are in confusion, and support those which are in peril. To have fixed times for their own reception at court, and the reception of their envoys. To send them away after liberal treatment, and welcome their coming with small contributions. This is the way to cherish the princes of the states. All who have the government of the empire with its states and families have the above 9 standard rules, and the means by which they are carried into practice is singleness. In all things, success depends on previous preparation, and without such previous preparation, there is sure to be failure. If what is to be spoken be previously determined, there will be no stumbling. If affairs be previously determined, there will be no difficulty with them. If one's actions have been previously determined, there will be no sorrow in connection with them. If principles of conduct have been previously determined, the practice of them will be inexhaustible. When those in inferior situations do not obtain the confidence of the sovereign, they cannot succeed in governing the people. There is a way to obtain the confidence of the sovereign. If one is not trusted by his friends, he will not get the confidence of his sovereign. There is a way to being trusted by one's friends. If one is not obedient to his parents, he will not be true to his friends. There is a way to being obedient to one's parents. If one, on turning his thoughts in upon himself, finds a want of sincerity, he will not be obedient to his parents. There is a way to the attainment of sincerity in oneself. If a man do not understand what is good, he will not attain sincerity in himself. Sincerity is the way of heaven. The attainment of sincerity is the way of men. He who possesses sincerity is he who, without an effort, hits what is right, and apprehends without the exercise of thought. He is the sage who naturally and easily embodies the right way. He who attains to sincerity is he who chooses what is good and firmly holds it fast. To this attainment there are requisite the extensive study of what is good, accurate inquiry about it, careful reflection on it, the clear discrimination of it, and the earnest practice of it. The superior man, while there is anything he has not studied, or while in what he has studied there is anything he cannot understand, will not intermit his labor. While there is anything he has not inquired about, or anything in what he has inquired about which he does not know, he will not intermit his labor. While there is anything which he has not reflected on, or anything in what he has reflected on which he does not apprehend, he will not intermit his labor. While there is anything which he has not discriminated, or his discrimination is not clear, he will not intermit his labor. If there be anything which he has not practiced, or his practice fails in earnestness, he will not intermit his labor. If another man succeed by one effort, he will use 100 efforts. If another man succeed by 10 efforts, he will use 1,000. Let a man proceed in this way, and though dull, he will surely become intelligent; though weak, he will surely become strong. Chapter 21. When we have intelligence resulting from sincerity, this condition is to be ascribed to nature. When we have sincerity resulting from intelligence, this condition is to be ascribed to instruction. But given the sincerity, and there shall be the intelligence. Given the intelligence, and there shall be the sincerity. James Lang's note. The above is the 21st chapter. Zisi takes up in it and discourses from the subjects of the way of heaven and the way of men mentioned in the preceding chapter. The 12 chapters that follow are all from Zisi, repeating and illustrating the meaning of this one. Chapter 22. It is only he who is possessed of the most complete sincerity that can exist under heaven, who can give its full development to his nature. Able to give its full development to his own nature, he can do the same to the nature of other men. Able to give its full development to the nature of other men, he can give their full development to the natures of animals and things. Able to give their full development to the natures of creatures and things, he can assist the transforming and nourishing powers of heaven and earth. Able to assist the transforming and nourishing powers of heaven and earth, he may, with heaven and earth, form a turnion. Chapter 23. Next to the above is he who cultivates to the utmost the shoots of goodness in him. From those he can attain to the possession of sincerity. This sincerity becomes apparent. From being apparent it becomes manifest. From being manifest it becomes brilliant. Brilliant, it affects others. Affecting others, they are changed by it. Changed by it, they are transformed. It is only he who is possessed of the most complete sincerity that can exist under heaven, who can transform. Chapter 24. It is characteristic of the most entire sincerity to be able to foreknow. When a nation or family is about to flourish, there are sure to be happy omens, and when it is about to perish, there are sure to be unlucky omens. Such events are seen in the milfoil and tortoise, and affect the movements of the 4 limbs. When calamity or happiness is about to come, the good shall certainly be foreknown by him, and the evil also. Therefore, the individual possessed of the most complete sincerity is like a spirit. Chapter 25. Sincerity is that whereby self-completion is effected, and its way is that by which man must direct himself. Sincerity is the end and beginning of things. Without sincerity, there would be nothing. On this account, the superior man regards the attainment of sincerity as the most excellent thing. The possessor of sincerity does not merely accomplish the self-completion of himself. With this quality he completes other men and things also. The completing himself shows his perfect virtue. The completing other men and things shows his knowledge. Both these are virtues belonging to the nature, and this is the way by which a union is effected of the external and internal. Therefore, whenever he, the entirely sincere man, employs them, that is, these virtues, their action will be right. Chapter 26. Hence, to entire sincerity there belongs ceaselessness. Not ceasing, it continues long. Continuing long, it evidences itself. Evidencing itself, it reaches far. Reaching far, it becomes large and substantial. Large and substantial, it becomes high and brilliant. Large and substantial, this is how it contains all things. High and brilliant, this is how it overspreads all things. Reaching far and continuing long, this is how it perfects all things. So large and substantial, the individual possessing it is the co-equal of earth. So high and brilliant, it makes him the co-equal of heaven. So far-reaching and long continuing, it makes him infinite. Such being its nature, without any display, it becomes manifested. Without any movement, it produces changes. And without any effort, it accomplishes its ends. The way of heaven and earth may be completely declared in one sentence. They are without any doubleness, and so they produce things in a manner that is unfathomable. The way of heaven and earth is large and substantial, high and brilliant, far-reaching and long-enduring. The heaven now before us is only this bright shining spot, but when viewed in its inexhaustible extent, the sun, moon, stars, and constellations of the zodiac are suspended in it, and all things are overspread by it. The earth before us is but a handful of soil, but when regarded in its breadth and thickness, it sustains mountains like the Hua and the Yue, without feeling their weight, and contains the rivers and seas without their leaking away. The mountain now before us appears only a stone, but when contemplated in all the vastness of its size, we see how the grass and trees are produced on it, and birds and beasts dwell on it, and precious things which men treasure up are found on it. The water now before us appears but a ladleful, yet extending our view to its unfathomable depths, the largest tortoises, iguanas, iguanodons, dragons, fishes, and turtles are produced in them. Articles of value and sources of wealth abound in them. It is said in the book of poetry, "The ordinances of heaven, how profound are they and unceasing." The meaning is that it is thus that heaven is heaven. And again, "How illustrious was it, the singleness of the virtue of king," one, indicating that it was thus that king, one, was what he was. Singleness likewise is unceasing. Chapter 27. How great is the path proper to the sage! Like overflowing water, it sends forth and nourishes all things, and rises up to the height of heaven. All complete is its greatness. It embraces the 300 rules of ceremony and the 3000 rules of demeanor. It waits for the proper man, and then it is trodden. Hence it is said, Only by perfect virtue can the perfect path in all its courses be made a fact. Therefore, the superior man honors his virtuous nature and maintains constant inquiry and study, seeking to carry it out to its breadth and greatness, so as to omit none of the more exquisite and minute points which it embraces, and to raise it to its greatest height and brilliancy, so as to pursue the course of the mean. He cherishes his old knowledge and is continually acquiring new. He exerts an honest, generous earnestness in the esteem and practice of all propriety. Thus, when occupying a high situation, he is not proud, and in a low situation he is not insubordinate. When the kingdom is well governed, he is sure by his words to rise, and when it is ill governed, he is sure by his silence to command forbearance to himself. Is not this what we find in the book of poetry? Intelligent is he, and prudent, and so preserves his person. Chapter 28. The Master said, "Let a man who is ignorant be fond of using his own judgment. Let a man without rank be fond of assuming a directing power to himself. Let a man who is living in the present age go back to the ways of antiquity. On the persons of all who act thus, calamities will be sure to come. To no one but the emperor does it belong to order ceremonies, to fix the measures, and to determine the characters. Now, over the empire, carriages have all wheels of the same size. All writing is with the same characters, and for conduct there are the same rules. One may occupy the throne, but if he have not the proper virtue, he may not dare to make ceremonies or music. One may have the virtue, but if he do not occupy the throne, he may not presume to make ceremonies or music." The Master said, "I may describe the ceremonies of the Xia dynasty, but Qi cannot sufficiently attest my words. I have learned the ceremonies of the Yin dynasty, and in Song they still continue. I have learned the ceremonies of Zhou, which are now used, and I follow Zhou." Chapter 29. He who attains to the sovereignty of the empire, having those three important things, shall be able to effect that there shall be few errors under his government. However excellent may have been the regulations of those of former times, they cannot be attested. Not being attested, they cannot command credence, and not being credited, the people would not follow them. However excellent might be the regulations made by one in an inferior situation, he is not in a position to be honored. Unhonored, he cannot command credence, and not being credited, the people would not follow his rules. Therefore, the institutions of the ruler are rooted in his own character and conduct, and sufficient attestation of them is given by the masses of the people. He examines them by comparison with those of the three kings, and finds them without mistake. He sets them up before heaven and earth, and finds nothing in them contrary to their mode of operation. he presents himself with them before spiritual beings, and no doubts about them arise. He is prepared to wait for the rise of a sage 100 ages after, and has no misgivings. His presenting himself with his institutions before spiritual beings, without any doubts about them arising, shows that he knows heaven. His being prepared without any misgivings to wait for the rise of a sage 100 ages after shows that he knows men. Such being the case, the movements of such a ruler, illustrating his institutions, constitute an example to the empire for ages. His acts are for ages a law to the empire. His words are for ages a lesson to the empire. Those who are far from him look longingly for him, and those who are near him are never wearied with him. It is said in the book of poetry, "Not disliked there, not tired of here, from day to day and night to night, will they perpetuate their praise." Never has there been a ruler who did not realize this description, that obtained an early renown throughout the empire. Chapter 30. Cheng Yi handed down the doctrines of Yao and Shun, as if they had been his ancestors, and elegantly displayed the regulations of Wan and Wu, taking them as his model. Above, he harmonized with the times of heaven, and below he was conformed to the water and land. He may be compared to heaven and earth, in their supporting and containing, their overshadowing and curtaining all things. He may be compared to the 4 seasons in their alternating progress, and to the sun and moon in their successive shining. All things are nourished together without their injuring one another. The courses of the seasons and of the sun and moon are pursued without any collision among them. The smaller energies are like river currents. The greater energies are seen in mighty transformations. It is this which makes heaven and earth so great. Chapter 31. It is only he, possessed of all sagely qualities that can exist under heaven, who shows himself quick in apprehension, clear in discernment, of far-reaching intelligence, and all-embracing knowledge, fitted to exercise rule. Magnanimous, generous, benign, and mild, fitted to exercise forbearance. Impulsive, energetic, firm, and enduring, fitted to maintain a firm hold. Self-adjusted, grave, never swerving from the mean and correct, fitted to command reverence. Accomplished, distinctive, concentrative, and searching, fitted to exercise discrimination. All-embracing is he and vast, deep and active as a fountain, sending forth in their due seasons his virtues. All-embracing and vast, he is like heaven. Deep and active as a fountain, he is like the abyss. He is seen, and the people all reverence him. He speaks, and the people all believe him. He acts, and the people all are pleased with him. Therefore his fame overspreads the Middle Kingdom, and extends to all barbarous tribes. Wherever ships and carriages reach, wherever the strength of man penetrates, wherever the heavens overshadow and the earth sustains, wherever the sun and moon shine, wherever frosts and dews fall, all who have blood and breath unfeignedly honor and love him. Hence it is said, he is the equal of heaven. Chapter 32. It is only the individual possessed of the most entire sincerity that can exist under heaven, who can adjust the great invariable relations of mankind, establish the great fundamental virtues of humanity, and know the transforming and nurturing operations of heaven and earth. Shall this individual have any being or anything beyond himself on which he depends? Call him man in his ideal, how earnest is he! Call him an abyss, how deep is he! Call him heaven, how vast is he! Who can know him but he who is indeed quick in apprehension, clear in discernment, of far-reaching intelligence, and all-embracing knowledge, possessing all heavenly virtue? Chapter 33. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "Over her embroidered robe she puts a plain, single garment," intimating a dislike to the display of the elegance of the former. Just so, it is the way of the superior man to prefer the concealment of his virtue, while it daily becomes more illustrious, and it is the way of the mean man to seek notoriety, while he daily goes more and more to ruin. It is characteristic of the superior man appearing insipid, yet never to produce satiety, while showing a simple negligence, yet to have his accomplishments recognized, while seemingly plain, yet to be discriminating. He knows how what is distant lies in what is near. He knows where the wind proceeds from. He knows how what is minute becomes manifested. Such an one, we may be sure, will enter into virtue. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "Although the fish sink and lie at the bottom, it is still quite clearly seen." Therefore, the superior man examines his heart, that there may be nothing wrong there, and that he may have no cause for dissatisfaction with himself. That wherein the superior man cannot be equaled is simply this: his work, which other men cannot see. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "Looked at in your apartment, be there free from shame, where you are exposed to the light of heaven." Therefore, the superior man, even when he is not moving, has a feeling of reverence, and while he speaks not, he has the feeling of truthfulness. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "In silence is the offering presented, and the spirit approached to. There is not the slightest contention." Therefore, the superior man does not use rewards, and the people are stimulated to virtue. He does not show anger, and the people are awed more than by hatchets and battle axes. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "What needs no display is virtue. All the princes imitate it." Therefore, the superior man, being sincere and reverential, the whole world is conducted to a state of happy tranquillity. It is said in the Book of Poetry, "I regard with pleasure your brilliant virtue, making no great display of itself in sounds and appearances." The Master said, "Among the appliances to transform the people, sounds and appearances are but trivial influences." It is said in another ode, "His virtue is light as a hair." Still, a hair will admit of comparison as to its size. The doings of the supreme heaven have neither sound nor smell. That is perfect virtue. James Lang's note. The above is the 33rd chapter. Zisi, having carried his descriptions to the extremest point in the preceding chapters, turns back in this and examines the source of his subject, and then again, from the work of the learner, free from all selfishness and watchful over himself when he is alone, he carries out his description, till by easy steps he brings it to the consummation of the whole empire, tranquilized by simple and sincere reverentialness. He farther eulogizes its mysteriousness, till he speaks of it at last as without sound or smell. He here takes up the sum of his whole work, and speaks of it in a compendious manner. Most deep and earnest was he in thus going again over his ground, admonishing and instructing men. Shall the learner not do his utmost in the study of the work? End of the Doctrine of the Mean, by Zisi, translated by James Lang.